The town of Oakhaven lay nestled deep in an Oregon valley, a place mostly absent from tourist maps. The climate here was not simply damp or chilly, but dominated by a peculiar entity, fog. Not the usual morning haze or hoarfrost, but a sheer white wall that was almost invisible to the touch, yet so dense it blocked all light and sound from the outside. It began at approximately 7 minutes past 10 a.m. every day, and did not dissipate until dusk. The locals, with their eyes often cast down, called it by a spine-chilling name, the Silent Hour. Our protagonist, Elias Vance, a young watchmaker, was an outsider. He had moved to Oakhaven to inherit and run his grandfather's old shop, a family legacy spanning 3 generations. The shop was a small museum of time, housing hundreds of pendulum clocks, wristwatches, and sundials. On his very first day, Elias noticed a chilling synchronization. Every single clock in the store, without exception, stopped at precisely 10:07 a.m. He checked the time zones, the batteries, and the mechanisms, finding them all perfect. He felt as if the store's time had been cleanly plucked out by an unseen hand. When Elias asked his elderly neighbor, Mrs. Gable, about this phenomenon, she was pruning a hedge with a vacant expression. She looked at Elias with empty eyes and smiled sweetly, almost disturbingly. "Ah, the mist is coming," she said, as if referring to an old friend. "We call that the Silent Hour. It happens every day." "Why do all the clocks stop?" Elias wondered, his voice tinged with genuine confusion. Mrs. Gable tilted her head, the sound of the shears brittle and dry. "It's not the clocks that stop, Elias. Time stops. It is reserved for the keepers." Elias dismissed her as being senile, but the next day, as he was working on a large grandfather clock, its ticking suddenly became slower, heavier. Exactly at 10:07 a.m., the fog swamped the windows. The clock in his hand emitted a bone-chilling shriek, analog scream, a sound sharp and pained as if its mechanism was being torn apart, and the second hand froze. Simultaneously, Elias felt a chilling void descend, a momentary lapse in memory, a hole in his mind that lasted no more than 2 seconds. He suddenly found himself standing in the middle of the room, holding a hammer instead of a screwdriver, with no memory of how he had moved. That event spurred Elias to install an old VHS video camera in his shop, pointed directly at the clock and himself. He was determined to find out exactly what happened during that stolen interval. At 10:07 a.m. the next morning, the mist arrived, bringing with it a low electronic hum. The camera recorded the clock stopping, then the screen dissolved into gray static interference, for about 45 seconds. When the static cleared, Elias reappeared in the frame, but he was in a different position, his shirt disheveled, and he had a small fresh cut on his finger, as if he had tried to claw at himself. He immediately rewound the tape. The 45 seconds of static were not completely useless. Although distorted, he found horrifying, warped frames of footage. In one sequence, he saw himself moving with a stiff, vacant manner, like an automaton, whispering in a language he couldn't understand into a small metal box on the counter. Then, there was an image of him holding the engraving knife and carving a strange symbol onto the inner surface of the cabinet door. The symbol was a large circle with 3 diagonal slashes inside, resembling a pair of crossed-out eyes. The most terrifying sight? The camera recorded him looking directly into the lens. His gaze was utterly blank. It wasn't Elias, but a cold entity controlling his body. He tried to amplify the audio on the tape, but the sound was mangled into a robotic shriek and a flat, cold voice repeating, "Vance. Programming received. Data relay ready." Panicked, Elias hastily boarded up the clock shop with a wooden plank. He ran to Mrs. Gable's house, showing her the cut on his hand and the terrifying videotape. Mrs. Gable looked at the tape with profound fear and confirmed his suspicions. She explained that everyone in Oakhaven was a keeper, the keepers. When the silent hour came, something from the mist would possess their bodies. The fog is to hide the view, Elias. It blocks everything, radio signals, GPS, and satellite. But its true purpose is to prevent you from seeing them, she whispered, her voice trembling. And the silent hour is for upload and programming. They reprogram us for the next day, she clarified. The 3/ symbol, circle with 3 slashes, was the mark of successful programming. The cut on Elias's hand was caused by himself, his true self, struggling to resist the programming during the period of possession. You are fighting back. They can't fully control you, yet. Mrs. Gable handed Elias an old metal box containing an antique audio tape. This is from your grandfather. He was the watchmaker before you. He was assimilated, but he left a warning. Listen to it before 10:07 a.m. tomorrow. It will tell you how to escape. Elias rushed home. The feeling of being watched weighed heavily on his shoulders. He looked outside. The night sky was starless, just a deep, featureless black, and he felt as though that blackness was staring back. Elias loaded the tape into the player. After several moments of static and menacing hiss, his grandfather's voice echoed. Elias, listen closely. They cannot catch you if you cannot see them. His grandfather explained. Elias's possessed self would attempt to complete the programming by carving the symbol onto all the clocks in the shop. Once all clocks bore the symbol, the loop would become permanent and Elias would be completely assimilated. The final piece of advice, spoken in a hurried whisper, was chillingly simple. Destroy all the clocks. Destroy time. Just then, the clock on the wall lurched forward. 10:06 a.m. Elias looked outside. The pure white mist was already at the window. It was no longer fog, but a high-intensity white light, emitting a low electronic hum. Elias frantically grabbed a small hammer. He began smashing the grandfather clock. 10:07 a.m. The bone-chilling shriek roared from the shattering clock. The familiar rush of memory loss came, but this time a much worse sensation appeared. His face automatically curled into a smirk against his will. Elias had been possessed. Elias's possessed body, we shall call it the Keeper, looked at the hammer in its hand. The Keeper gently shook its head, a look of smug satisfaction spreading across its features. It looked at the broken glass on the floor. Pathetic, Elias. Did you truly think destroying time would save you? Time in Oakhaven is ours to dictate. The Keeper calmly picked up the engraving knife. Instead of smashing, the Keeper began carving the 3/ symbol onto the nearest intact clock, working quickly and mechanically. The Keeper paused and looked directly at the video camera's position. It knew it was recording. We don't need the silent hour for this work, the Keeper whispered, its voice distorted and flat like an old tape. The silent hour is for our rest after preparation. The real work happens when you sleep, when you watch TV, when you go for a walk. They always require a monitor. The Keeper looked at the cut on Elias's finger, then back out at the blinding white fog covering the window. The fog doesn't hide us. The fog protects us from something much larger, something that if you saw, you would instantly go mad. We are a barrier, the final barrier. The Keeper finished carving the final symbol onto a pocket watch. It put the knife down and looked at Mrs. Gable's metal box. It picked up the audio tape. Your grandfather didn't understand. He didn't understand the purpose. The keeper played the tape. Elias's grandfather's voice returned, but this time it was laced with a series of binary code and a piercing high-frequency pitch that was agonizing to hear. The keeper translated the binary. The barrier is breaking. They are coming. Let it control you, Elias. It won't hurt. Assimilate, overwrite, escape the sight. The keeper smirked. It put the tape down, picked up the hammer, and moved towards the remaining clocks. It smashed them, not out of panic, but because the newly downloaded command required cleanup of evidence. The keeper knew Elias was still somewhere inside the body, panicking and screaming. "You won't escape, Elias," the keeper murmured to itself. "You have seen too much. Now, you have only two choices. Either you accept assimilation and live in the peace of the silent hour, or you resist and I must turn you off permanently." The keeper finished smashing the last clock. It looked down at the cabinet door where the 3/ symbol was carved. It placed its hand on the symbol. In that moment, Elias felt one last surge of strength. A tiny will fighting the control. "I will not become a keeper." You have no choice left. The keeper picked up the carving knife and walked toward the video camera. It tilted its head, looking directly into the lens. The keeper repeated Elias's grandfather's warning, but with a mocking, self-satisfied tone. "They cannot catch you if you cannot see them." It used the knife to carve another, smaller, sharper symbol directly onto the camera lens. Instantly, the video screen went to pure whiteout. Pure whiteout. No static, no image, only a reverberating, piercing, high-frequency tone. Piercing, high-frequency tone, echoed, loud enough to shatter the light bulbs in the shop. In the final moment before everything vanished, Elias's faint, desperate voice echoed in the white void. "I destroyed time, but I only created silence. An eternal silence." The camera continued recording, but there was only the blinding white light and the ceaseless high-frequency tone. Video ends.